Has AI and ChatGPT replaced your powerlifting coach? Have we gotten to a point now where you don't have to pay for any kind of powerlifting coaching and you can just get everything free by asking an AI robot whatever you want? So what I did is I went into ChatGPT and I asked it some basic questions to develop some basic powerlifting programs for me. And we're going to review a few different scenarios and some modifications that you can do to those scenarios to see whether ChatGPT is something that you can use to write your powerlifting program so you don't have to use a powerlifting coach. So let's get right into it. And basically, if you don't know what ChatGPT is by now, it's just a form of artificial intelligence, AI. Basically, it's in the form of a chat. So you basically just make a little chat and you talk to a robot and you ask it whatever questions or tell it whatever you want to do. So you can ask it any kind of questions, and based on its database that it has from a certain date behind, it basically collects all the information out there and gives you the answer to that question. Or if you wanted to develop something for you, you ask it, hey, I want you to write this formula in Excel that's going to do this. And again, it's going to pull from all its information and give it to you. Right now, it's something that's free because it's in beta testing and they want people to ask it questions and they can learn and get better and better. So I went in and I said, okay, let me ask it some basic questions and give it some basic prompts of what to make for me as far as a powerlifting program. So the first thing I started out with is, okay, let's just start with 1 week of training and let's not go into a full training cycle. And so I said, write 1 week powerlifting program that is only 3 training days to see what it can write for a single week and whether it can take the prompt of, oh, I can only train 3 times per week, or I can only train 4 times per week. So you can see what it gave, and it gave a very basic outline of a program where you are training 3 training days. So it did that properly. It decided to put squat, bench press, and deadlift into all 3 days. So it's aware for powerlifting that you are doing the squat, bench press, and deadlift, and it accurately put those exercises in. And then you can see it gave the sets, the reps, and then a percentage of your 1 rep max. So it's aware of what sets and reps are. It was aware that people usually use percentage of 1 rep max. And then from there, you can see it's keeping things in the lower rep range. So you can see everything is 3 reps and below. So it at least understands the basic concept of powerlifting and the prompt of having 3 days per week. But if you take a look at this program, it's not something that you necessarily want to start right off with. So you can look, it's giving you triples at 85% on the squat and bench press and 1 triple at 90% on the deadlift. And then you can see that 48 hours later, you have to come and squat and bench press again, multiple sets of doubles at 90%, and then 1 set of a double at 95% on deadlift. And then you can see 48 hours later on Friday, you have to come in and do all singles. So 95% on squat and bench press, and then a 100% single on deadlift. So I'm no AI, but as a powerlifting coach, as a human, I would not recommend for you to start off on this program. This would even be very difficult to do during a peaking block, unless your training maxes have gone up. So you're not actually doing 100% of your true max at that point. You may be doing 100% of your competition max before starting the training cycle, and after 12 or 16 weeks, now you are stronger, and it's maybe more like 95% of your max. But even then, you want to be mindful of doing 3 heavy days like that in a single week. And if you don't monitor your fatigue and you're not recovering in time, then you're going to be failing when you get to those 95% and 100% singles, even if you have gotten stronger. And you can even see at the bottom, it gives us a little section for notes to let us know about this program. So it's saying this is a basic program that you can adjust the percentage and reps according to your own needs and recovery abilities. So it is saying, hey, if these percentages are too high, you may have to pull them down. Or if you want to stick with these percentages, you may have to pull the reps down. It also says the weight should be challenging, but not so heavy that you can't perform the reps with good form. So obviously for a powerlifting program, if you're pushing yourself, you want to be making it challenging for yourself, but you don't want your form to be breaking down. You don't want to be like cutting your depth, and obviously you don't want to be missing reps or getting injured. A few points down, you can even say, it says, if you have any doubt or need help with exercise form, you should consult a trainer. So even this is saying that at least right now it's limited in the information you can give, which is text information. It can't give photos or videos, and it can't review something like videos to give you help on your technique. So you would have to go to an actual person and get help on something like your technique. And then even at the very bottom, it gives a little bit of a reasoning saying that this program is for 3 training days so that you can have enough rest days. So it's saying like the reason for someone doing 3 training days is to be able to space out the days more and have adequate rest. So the next prompt I gave it is like, okay, let's see if we can change the frequency, because when I asked it for 3 training days, it gave 3 times frequency on squat, bench press, and deadlift. But most people don't do that. Most people train different frequencies for each of the exercises, maybe more on squat and bench press, or more just on bench press, and oftentimes less on the deadlift. So my next prompt was, okay, now write 1 week of powerlifting programming, but what I changed is where I'm squatting 2 times per week, benching 4 times per week, and deadlifting 2 times per week. And you can see this is the program that it gave. It split up now into 5 training days rather than the requirement of 3 training days. So it gave itself more room to fit in that frequency, but it didn't understand the frequency frequency properly. And so it just gave the squat, bench press, and delt for everything now. So now you're training 5 days per week, but you're doing 5 times frequency on everything. So it didn't quite grasp that concept. Another interesting thing here is that in neither case did I tell it to do it percentage based or tell it to do RPE based or any kind of specific program. So in this case, it just says heavyweight, moderate weight, versus previously it was actually giving percentage of 1 rep max. So for whatever reason, it changed its mind and said, okay, we don't need to give percentages. So it just said, okay, I'm going to give this person 5 training days, 5 times frequency. It didn't understand the prompt fully. And so here's what you have. You have sets of 5 and sets of 8 on various days at either moderate or heavy weights. So again, it's understanding some basic stuff. It understands what a powerlifting program is. It understands the lifts within it. It understands the concept of like, lower sets, like 1 to 3 sets, and lower rep ranges, and using moderate to heavy weight. But it's not understanding all the concepts as far as giving me different frequency or a program that starts off easy and then builds up from there. And since it gave me the moderate and heavy weights and didn't give me any percentage or RPs, I said, okay, let me see if it understands a prompt where you're taking the feedback it gives, taking that program that it gives, and now saying, change this to percentage-based training. So I gave it the prompt, change it to be percentage-based, and you can see that it went ahead and changed everything to percentage-based, but it also changed some of the reps. So while it kept that 5 times a week frequency, 5 training days, and doing all of this 5 times per week, it's now going and adding in those percentages, but taking away the sets of 5 and sets of 8. Now it's switching everything for whatever reason to sets of 3, and then going 85% and above. So for whatever reason, it doesn't understand the concept maybe of doing, 3 sets of 8 at 70%. Instead, it's changing to 3 sets of 3 at 85%. Same thing with maybe it doesn't understand 3 sets of 5 at 80%. So it's going 3 sets of 3 again at 87.5%. For whatever reason, it decided to change that on its own. So next I want to know, does it actually know what RP is? It's something that was used outside of the sport of powerlifting that's now been implemented in powerlifting on a different scale than what's used outside of powerlifting. And the average powerlifter does know what RPE is, and they've seen RPE-based training. So can this understand what RPE is and apply it correctly? So I said, okay, change this to RPE based training. And then you can see it actually did go and put all the RPEs in there. For whatever reason, this time it did keep the original program. So it kept the sets of 8 there, kept the sets of 5 there, but you can see how it's adding now in the RPEs, RPE-8s for the moderate weight and the RPE-9s for the heavyweights that are listed in that original program. So again, it can sometimes do things well or what you're actually looking for, and other times it may do what you're looking for, but then change some other things in there as well that you didn't want changed. So it depends on what kind of input you give it, and maybe you have to be more specific on the restrictions and say, oh, hey, don't change this, but you want to change that. So it maintains the things that you want it to keep, and then change the things that you don't want to keep and adjust to whatever it is, percentage-based training or RPE-based training. From there, I want to see what other changes can it do to the program. So if you're not getting exactly what you want out of it, and you're saying, give me RPE-based, okay, I can give you RPE. But what if I wanted to give me more volume? What if 3 sets of 8 isn't enough for me? I know I need more volume. Can I give it the prompt of, hey, give me more volume? And does it understand what volume is and how to make that adjustment to a powerlifting program? So you can see my next prompt is make it higher volume, and it went ahead and started putting in 5 sets of 8 instead of the 3 sets of 8. And it even changed some of the protocols now to 5 sets of 6 that were previously 3 sets of 8. So again, it understands the concept. Okay, we want to do higher volume, let's add in some more sets, but it is also changing some of the protocols. So it's not just going in and taking the previous protocol and saying, let me add 1 set. It's saying, okay, let me change the 3 sets of 8 to 5 sets of 6. Let me change another set of 3 sets of 8 to 5 sets of 4. And then sometimes it's changing the 3 sets of 8 to 5 sets of 8. So now you're getting maybe more of a traditional DUP style program where you can see on Monday you're doing sets of 8, on Wednesday you're doing sets of 6, and on Friday you're doing sets of 4. With this higher volume program, you can also see the percentages are pretty high. So the sets of 8 are at 80%, the sets of 6 are at 85%, and then the sets of 4 are at 90% for squat and bench press. And then for the deadlift, it's even higher intensity. So the sets of 8 are at 85%, 6 is at 90%, and then 4 is at 95%. So I want to now make another iteration of this and say, okay, now can you go and take this and do lower intensity? Because I want these to be at a lower intensity, a lower RPE. I want the 8 to be at maybe 70%. I want the 6 to maybe be at 75%, and the 4 is at 80%. So can it do that? So here you can see I said make it lower intensity, and it in fact did do that. So you can see there's sets of 8 now at 70%, and then there's some sets of 8 at 75%, and then some sets of 8 at 80%. So So it did lower some of the intensity, but again, now it's messing around with the protocols again, and it's having different protocols where now it's all sets of 8. It took away the 6s and 4s, and it's having 8s at different percentages. So 70, 75, 80% for squat and bench press, and 75, 80, and 85% for the deadlift. So it didn't quite understand the exact prompt that I was giving it of taking that same 5 sets of 8 and just lowering it from 80% to 70%, taking that protocol of 5 sets of 4 at 90% and just reducing it down to 85 or 80%. So it's going and reducing the percentage of 1 rep max, but then it's increasing some of the reps and bringing the RPE back up to where I don't necessarily want it. So again, some good, some bad. I understand some of the concepts. We want to lower the intensity, so it's going and shifting the intensities down to the 70 to 80% range rather than the 80% to 90% range in the previous program. But then it's also adjusting some of the other variables of the protocols that's going to bring the RPE back up and make it too difficult. So now with all these different prompts that we've been working with so far, it's only working on a single week. Obviously, the powerlifting program is not going to be a single week. You don't necessarily want to repeat the same week over and over again. So now I said, okay, let me give it a little bit of a harder prompt, and can it write multiple weeks? Can it actually build upon these weeks and come up with an actual training block or a training cycle? And maybe by doing this, it'll start off a little bit easier and build its way up, rather than when I gave it the 1 week prompt, it gave a very difficult week. So I went ahead and said, okay, write a 3-week training block and let's see what it comes up with. So here you can see my prompt to write a 3-week training program peaking for a powerlifting competition. And you can see it knows week 1 and it gives the 5 days a week training with the 5 times frequency in all 3 lifts. And then you can see how it's going to have triples here for week number 1 across the board. Then as we go into week number 2, you can see how it knows to shift down to doubles across the board, and it's increasing the intensity. And then we go into week number 3 and you see it shifting down again to singles and further increasing intensity. And it knows, you can see at the bottom, it puts rest day on Friday and competition day on Saturday. So again, it's understanding the general concept. It knows what our powerlifting program is. It knows the powerlifting lifts. It knows for peaking, you want to be reducing the volume, reducing the reps per set, and increasing the intensity. And then it knows to put a little bit of rest, in this case just 1 day before the competition day. But it doesn't fully understand the idea of powerlifting programming, at least as far as the way I do it, in that it's just doing triples every single day where I would like to vary the reps. It's doing, 5 times frequency on all 3 lifts where I would vary the frequency based on the lifter and their needs. Oftentimes bench press is going to be higher frequency, deadlift is going to be lower frequency. It's also giving some very difficult protocols depending on the person. For example, week 1, doing 3 sets of 3 at 90% on squat and bench press is going to be very difficult, and 1 set of 3 at 95% on deadlift after that is going to be very difficult and can lead to failure. And then from there, build up even further. So we go to week number 2 and you're doing doubles at 95% on squat and bench press and a single set of 2 at 100% on deadlift. And then for week 3, it's pushing you even further. As you can see on Thursday, 48 hours before the competition, it's asking you to do 3 singles at 95% on squat and bench press and 1 single at 100% on deadlift. So for anyone who's been involved in powerlifting, whether you do your own programming, whether you coach for people, or you just get coached by someone to run a free program, you would know that like no one does this. No one is doing 95% singles and 100% single on deadlift 48 hours from a competition. You are doing your heaviest stuff maybe 7 to 10 days out, maybe even 14 days out. And then from there, you start reducing things. You may be doing your openers at the beginning of the competition week. And then from there, reducing it further and giving yourself enough rest going into the competition. You're not continuing to ramp up the intensity and difficulty up until the last day before the meet. So ChatGPT has a little bit of work to do there. So again, going back to the same trend, it understands the general concept, but it's not quite getting exactly what it needs to in order to develop a good powerlifting program that you can run on your own without having to have a coach write everything for you. Now you can keep going in here and keep giving it different iterations and telling it things to do as far as maybe removing the squats or maybe reducing the reps or maybe reducing the frequency, and keep giving it adjustments to get the powerlifting program that you want. From there though, you may have to also then go back to it each and every week or whenever you have any major changes to your life schedule, if you miss any lifts, anything like that going on, to say, okay, I did these 2 weeks, now go and adjust the next 2 weeks based on whatever prompts you give it. And then from there, you're still not getting the other things that you get from a coach. As I mentioned, as far as like technique, you're not going to get technique feedback out of ChatGPT. Same thing with a game plan. It's not going to be able to build a game plan for you for a competition as far as what warm-ups to do, how many reps, what attempts to do, based on whatever lifts you've done and the RPEs, especially because it can't assess any videos. And then of course, ChatGPT can't physically go to your meet and help you load weights and pick attempts for you. Now, all this AI stuff is growing really fast, and ChatGPT is getting billions of dollars of funding from Microsoft and other companies, and so it's growing at a rapid rate. It's updating its information constantly, and so maybe we get to a point where it can do some of these things better, where it can figure out a powerlifting program more accurately the first time, and it can do the adjustments that you ask it to better than what I've gotten so far. How long that's going to take though, I don't know. And if it does get to that point, that can be something that can assist a powerlifting coach. So instead of you just going off and asking it on your own, it can be an assistant to a powerlifting coach, where a powerlifting coach can use ChatGPT to design an initial program, and then from there make adjustments for you specifically, and adjustments on a week-to-week basis for you specifically based on how you're performing, as well as analyzing your technique and building out your game plan for meet and helping you at the actual meet. So that could be maybe something that happens more in the future, especially as a note is that, like I mentioned earlier, this is for free now because they want people going in and asking it questions and giving it prompts and testing it. But once they get to a point that they feel it is adequate, then they can start charging for this. So who knows how much they start charging? Maybe they start charging a subscription-based model where it's $9.99 a month or even $4.99 a month. So now are you going to go pay $9.99 a month in order to get a program like this, and then have to go in and either tell it to make the adjustments for you, or you go and make adjustments based on the initial plan, and then again the other aspects of coaching that it's not providing? So has ChatGPT completely replaced a powerlifting coach? Of course I want to say no. Can ChatGPT be a useful resource going forward? It could, maybe more so for a coach rather than a lifter, as it can be used as a jump off point to get some ideas of how to write a powerlifting program, maybe make adjustments to a powerlifting program, maybe just ask it general questions about powerlifting, and maybe even for other things around running a powerlifting business, like asking it things about social media, marketing, branding, and everything like that. But just in case this does blow up and ChatGPT does start replacing powerlifting coaches, then be sure to hit the like button below and watch this video next so I can keep making that YouTube money.